Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SpeakIn podcast. I'm Marcel from SpeakIn, Asia's largest digital learning platform for professional growth through one-on-one coaching and group learning sessions. In today's episode, we have a distinguished leader from Singapore who will share their personal corporate journey, insights on leadership, and more. Mr. Eugene Lam. So, a brief information about Mr. Eugene himself. He's a senior vice president for human resources at ST Engineering. Eugene plays a global human resource role at ST Engineering, providing talent strategies for the smart city and digital solution cluster at ST Engineering itself. With 20 plus years of experience, he specializes in leadership and organizational development, as well as employee engagement, and strategic workforce planning, and has worked extensively in IT professional services and FMCG industries. He's currently focused on people and organizational transformation priorities for the US businesses that ST Engineering operates in. So I would like to welcome to the SpeakIn podcast, Mr. Eugene Lam.
Thanks, Marcel.
Yeah. So I guess here itself at SpeakIn, we would like to know more about you. So more about, I would say, what guides you in your personal career itself and what got you to where you are at today. So I think the first question I would like to know itself is, what are some of the most important lessons you have learned in your career, and how do you continue to grow and evolve as a leader?
Okay, sure. One thing about being a HR business partner, as many know, is how do you become a trusted business partner to your leaders? And I think I can draw two things that's come out strong for me over the years that's worked for me. One is obviously you need to know your subject, right, which is HR, very deeply and widely. Because many leaders will come to you, uh, and oftentimes knowing subjects, but also not knowing certain subjects and insights to the people landscape, right, that you operate in. So I think you've got to really know your subject very well. And as you know, HR does span quite a wide spectrum, right? From operations all the way to something that's more strategic. So you sort of need to know your topics quite deeply, right? How
Yeah.
do you solve some of the high value talent problems that the company has? And usually some of these are really quite difficult to deal with. Like, how do you build capability, right? How do you build capability for today, but also for the future? How do you shape culture of an organization? How do you build your leaders, right? How do you tackle very difficult employee engagement challenges, right? Especially with changing social values, demographics, of our workforce, right? So these are not easy subjects, and I think what I've learned is that you got to know these subjects quite deeply in order that you can provide good insights, and advice to your organization. The other that I've learned is really about knowing the business that you support. Oftentimes, HR comes in as a HR subject matter expert, which is fine, but I think whichever industry or company that you support, right, you need to know it quite intimately. And by that, I actually mean, right, what are things that matter most to your business leader? For example, right, your financial results. You need to understand deeply, right, what drives, revenues, what drive sales, right, what drives profitability, margins, subjects that may not be so common to HR, but unless you can speak the same language and understand, right, and resonate the same concerns as your business leaders and managers, right, you're sort of one step away, right, from being a truly trusted business partner. So those two things are really my takeaway. The other, question you ask about evolving as a leader, I think leadership, I mean, over the years, I'm still learning. Um, and I suppose the statement of I'm still learning comes from you need to have values that help you to be open to feedback, to what people have to say about you. Whether it's in your 360 assessment or basically in your annual performance discussions, right? You got to be really open. You got to be introspective, I've learned. And there's so much that you can learn not only from your managers and your leaders, but also from your peers, and also from the people who work for you. And I think that's sort of over the years, right? You may have a point of view what it means to be a leader, but the thing about sharpening yourself, right, is really being very open, right, to feedback and change yourself.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I would say that statement itself on continuous learning. I firmly believe in that as well as self-reflection on what could be done right and wrong, especially when you are working in the working or in the corporate industry where you are constantly going with the chain and continuously working. I think having a stop to think about what you've done right and wrong will actually really help you in growing yourself as a person as well. That's what I would say. So I
Yeah.
think I'll move on to the second question. Uh, yeah, I think we will. I'm curious about what are the core principles that guide your leadership philosophy, and how do you inspire your team to achieve excellence?
Yeah, I think one of the key things you hear most leadership books talk about, right, is setting vision and influence and being able to motivate people. And leadership is about, getting people to do things that they normally won't do. I think all that is right. But I think for myself, what I've learned is that, it starts with just building trust, right? You don't become a leader just because you get a job title or you get a rank, right? But it's really about how you are able to build trust and that bridge with your people. And building trust comes, I think, with two things. One is obviously being very open, and as a result of that, right, being very authentic. Because people can smell BS, right, a mile away, right? So, and if we all understand that the people that work for us, for the organizations, are professionals. They're smart and intelligent. I think the least as leaders we can do is, to be very open about situations and to be very authentic about things that happen, right? Um, so I think that's one. The other philosophy I've learned is really about purpose. And I mean, I'm a strong believer that whenever I join a team or I'm in a particular domain in a function, right, in HR, whether I was leading talent or I'm leading a particular business, is to really provide a sense of mission and purpose to your team, right? What really is the mission and vision for the function that you lead or the little team that you lead, right? What does it mean to provide a sense of purpose, right? um, because I think that's really powerful, right? If we're able to do that, because it's almost like the guiding compass, right? That gets everyone in alignment. Uh, the other thing I've learned about leadership is also about making tough decisions, because you'll know that in a group size as small as three, up to 10 or 20, right? You will never make a decision that everyone's happy, right?
Yeah,
And I
that's
think,
right.
one of the things about leadership is just making those hard decisions, but, always guided by the sense of purpose, right? And um, I think that always helps to inspire people, right? Because you're not there to, make easy calls, but being very open, right? Why you have to do this, right? Explaining the whys and so on. I think that always comes along. And of course, I always believe that we need to have to enjoy ourselves. We spend most of our hours at work, and you need to have fun lah, along the way, right? You got to
Yeah,
work hard, but you got to, as they say, lah, play harder, right? So I think that's
correct.
important. Make sure you make time to to have your own downtime with your team and just to get to know them as people, right? Beyond just colleagues. Yeah,
Yeah, I think what I noticed in common with the with all these I would say the award leaders so far, the awardees themselves, they always have this emphasis on maintaining I would say hygiene values itself.
yeah,
Yeah, to actually just be kind, have a sensing that people on your team or people itself are human, so you have to know them on a human level before you proceed on to be a proper leader in front of them. So that was really a great takeaway for me itself. I think
yeah,
it will be a great takeaway for everyone who is listening to this right now. So I think Let's go a bit more towards the technical, I would say, educational spectrum of HR itself. So the question I'd like to ask is, with these emerging trends of technological advancement, as well as the rise of like remote working, so I would say with 3 days in office and 2 days at home kind of work. So this is just me trying to be curious about your point of view and insight about it. So how do you see the role of HR evolving in the next 5 years with these emerging trends?
Yeah, so technological advancements, demographic changes, those like climate change, those are factors, right? That if you ask me, are really the shapers, right? Of organizations, right? They have big impact on organizations. And with technology, right, the scary thing really is that we don't know what we don't know, right? I think, 10 years ago, if I told you this Korean company called Samsung is gonna, give Apple a run for its money and all that, I think everybody will be laughing their pants off. But today, I mean, look what Samsung is doing, right, in the smart mobile space, in the Android space. I mean, look at what Uber and Grab did to the transport industry. Look at what Airbnb did to the hospitality. I mean, there are many things that's out there that's happening that is being developed even without us knowing. Right? So it's very hard to fathom, how that's really going to impact us. But for sure, right? I mean, technology will change the way we do things, right? And I've often advised my team that, some days, right, some of the things that you are doing, you if you reflect very hard, right, you got to ask yourself, right, there's probably a software, an algorithm, or something that's out there that can easily replace, right, what we do in HR, right? Not completely, but clearly quite in large ways, right? So definitely our jobs will start to change. So what really will remain relevant? I was thinking about this quite a bit, and to my very first point that I and that the question that you asked, right? Important lessons that I learned. I think there are a couple of areas that I feel HR leaders will continue to be relevant. Right? One is uh, being a culture builder. Right? Culture is one that I've learned over the years. It's a tough one to crack, but you can tell, right? I spent many years in US multinationals. This is my first Temasek Link company. And when you walk into an organization, you can just sense the aura or the culture, right? It's this invisible hand. And I think HR will have a big part to play, right, as to understanding what is the kind of culture that is going to enable an organization, right? And it can come in many ways, right? It can come in policies. It can come in as mundane things as processes, practices. But unknown to many people, that's exactly the thing that shapes your culture, right? If you're told to do something, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in order to get an approval, that behavior, right, is going to be just cast in stone in a sense, right? Your HR practices, the way you process things, you get 10 levels of approvals or whatever. It starts to shape something known as culture. And I think HR will play a very interesting role, right? In as I say, a company has a head, hand, and a heart, right? And that's the part that HR are playing, right? The heart, right? It's sort of like the soul of an organization. Um, so I think that's one that I think will still be very, very, very relevant. The other one is about leadership. Um, Again, I suppose leaders do shape the culture of an organization. That's why I think that HR leaders play it's something that you may not find in job descriptions, but it's one role that I think is becoming more and more important. How the role of a HR leader supports and truly partners his business leader, right? In providing feedback about the organization, about the leadership team, about the leader himself, and how because that's a key role because leaders obviously start to shape the organization's soul. And I think finally, again, I see technology probably being able to facilitate this, right? But this is a whole topic on organizational effectiveness and organizational development. Um, and if I may say, right, if I may adopt the STAR model, I mean, if you look at the STAR model today, I still think it's very relevant, right? It talks about capability, it talks about structure, it talks about practices and processes, and if you combine this model, right, uh, I think HR has a very key role to play in this, right? Because the STAR model basically exemplifies uh, um, an organization, right, and its ability um, to draw upon, or its ability to sell its products, services, and be effective, right? And HR has a big part to play in all those elements, right? Around capability, around the structure of our organization. It sounds very um, uh, simplified per se, but it's not, right? Because if you ask anyone, how do you structure an organization, right, in line with strategy? Not really an easy topic, right? But I've seen more and more the role of senior HR leaders being drawn into this area, right? To understand what it means to have a structure that really is going to make sense. And especially many global companies today, right? Do you structure geographically? Do you structure by product? Do you structure by line of business? And all this does make a huge difference, right? In accountabilities, in driving high performance out. So these are not easy topics. And I think HR will continue to play a very key role also in that sport, right? So yeah, I can see how in the next couple of years, even with technological advancements, the HR will now play an even greater role, right? Because roles will change across our business, whether it's in sales, in manufacturing, and I think HR will play a big role in these three areas: culture, leadership, and org development and effectiveness.
Yeah, I think I agree with it, especially on the star model itself. I think with tech, especially, and all the other advancement to streamline work itself, or especially on the HR side of things, I think there's more emphasis now on the people and culture, whereas like you have to understand more on the emotional well-being as well of these people. So with the whole diversify of new, I would say a new wave of employees coming in versus the old one, how do you mix their culture together? So I think that is like one of the main point that I get from these key takeaways from all these interviews as well. So I think I'll ask the last question itself for the day. So I think for me itself, what I'm curious to know is what are the personal challenges you have faced so far, at least be it in I would say not only just in your career, but also in personal life that strive you to what you are today. I think that's something I would like to learn some lessons and takeaways from it.
Wow, okay.
Mhm.
So maybe I'm going to tackle this from a few angles.
Sure.
And it's been quite humbling for me. Unknown to many people, if you looked at my LinkedIn profile, you'd be wondering, wow, okay, you've been quite mobile in your career. But what's unknown to people is that I lost my job 3 times in my career. It was by restructuring or otherwise, right? Leadership changes. And I thought those were really humbling moments, right? Because um, it can be a reorganization, it can be a downsizing exercise, the companies that you serve in that needs to, obviously get out of their current business challenges. But you obviously will take it personally, right? And it's been quite a journey for me. I think the way I've reminded myself, right, was about this whole thing about perseverance. I think two things from my lessons here. One is, this whole believing in yourself and and taking strides in also being very reflective, right, about yourself, your personal journey, because those are points, right, and moments when it actually happens and you're having that conversation. You go through a period of personal strife, right, and reflection. And I've learned that, yeah, one, you need to sort of take bold steps forward um, and just keep trying, be very dogged, believing in yourself, right? And it's just with time that you realize that, yeah, things would work out just with time and focus and perseverance. That's one. The second, I think it's about um, also taking chances in opportunities that come, because when I had gone through those challenges, there were different opportunities that came my way. And I realized when doors open, um, sometimes taking steps, right, and taking the chance on organizations that you never thought that you would actually be a part of, it turned out to be some of the best things that happened, right? Meaning to say, you may have a frame of mind to say, oh, look, I have a preference to, to stay in the tech sector or whatever, and you have opportunities that come your way that's quite different. And I realized that over the course of those challenges and taking those bold steps, it turned out to be one of the best decisions I made, right? Because life just has what was that movie? Forrest Gump, right? You just never know what life is, like a box of chocolates,
Lots
right?
of
You just
chocolate.
never
Yeah.
know. Yeah. And I learned that because wow, some of the chances that I took, right? And then I kind of learned introspectively that, yeah, sometimes life does allow for things to happen, right? They guide you to open certain boxes that surprises you. And I continue to learn and, in fact, actually thrive, as a result of those changes and those impact, right? So I learned that, yeah, no matter how tough life may be and how it gets, when another door opens, right? And it may not be something up your alley or that go surprise yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
as they say, it's not the place that shapes you, right? You're supposed to go there and define the place, right? So yeah, those would be my takeaway. Yeah, yeah,
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Lam. So I think it's really a great takeaway for the fact that you have to take a bold step to go out of your comfort zone itself, and yeah, just be ready to face it, and don't get too burdened by whatever you experienced so far, right? So I think
that's
that was that was really a great takeaway. Not only I mean, you don't have to lose your job to experience that, but
right.
right, but in terms of on the day-to-day lifestyle, whenever you feel like, oh, this might not be it for me. It's either you take a bold step to continue forward, or
Yeah,
maybe it's time to have a relook and maybe try something else forward as well. I think it's
yeah,
always a two-way road for everyone to take it. And I think that was a great takeaway, especially for someone who just entered the workforce like me itself.
yeah,
I think it's a
yeah,
really
yeah.
big eye-opener for me. So I think, Mr. Lam, I don't this this will really be a good, I would say it's been a good podcast so far, in terms of
Okay.
the takeaway for all
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
questions that we covered so far. I think it covers your professional journey well, as well as what you experienced in your personal, I think personal life, and what it moves you to be the leader you are today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. I must tell you, if you go through what I went through, wow, yeah, it's been quite a journey, lah. Some of my close friends will joke with me, "Hey, Eugene, you can do this for a career, no? 3 times lose your drop 3 packages." I say, hey, I don't think it's fun when you're going through it. Trust me, because there are a lot of questions that will come up your mind, right? Like, hey, is there
Yeah.
something wrong with me? Is that my dress code? They don't like my deodorant. A lot of things sort of cross your mind, and it's very, very, it's tough, right? But
Mm,
yeah, life always surprises me when one trial, right, doesn't determine who you are, and you just keep going, you know.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I think thank you so much, Mr. Lam, for
yeah.
sharing so far on your valuable insights. I think we can, especially on your experiences today. It was a pleasure having you on the podcast. I think I would like to close off where we are at today. So, to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Stay connected with us for more inspiring conversations such as these with Asia's top leaders. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on our LinkedIn page as well on our YouTube as well.